stories that lives on.
A rainy Thursday it is, and it's May 29. Beautiful day. Oh well, welcome to VOP this morning. I am Moses Humphrey. And of course, we will be having interesting conversations today. Chukuma is right there. Chukuma, good morning to you.
Good morning, Moses.
All right, then now let's dive into some of the things that we'll be focusing on this morning. Tinubu's 2 year in office, no result yet, already campaigning for second term. That's according to netizens. Oh well. We'll also look at lawyers accusing police of ignoring Natasha, rushing to act on Akpabio's petition. And 4,169 teachers failed professional qualifying examination conducted by TRCN. Oh well, these are the conversations we will focus on this morning as we celebrate Nigeria as well.
All right then, thanks for joining us. Moses already told you I am Chukuma Okoro. Apart from the major stories, we also have other interesting trending stories. And one of them is that the House of Representatives has launched an investigation into alleged unethical practices surrounding the disbursement of student loans. This follows a motion raised by Honorable Aliyu Mustafa during plenary. The House directed its committees on student loans, scholarships, and higher education financing, banking and ancillary institutions, anti-corruption and university education to probe issues including diversion of funds, lack of transparency, mismanagement, and non-compliance with the 2024 Students' Loan Act. Well, a report is expected within 4 weeks. Well, that is the story of Nigeria. If you talk about the students' loan, what about the NNPC? What about the Ministry of Finance? What about the Central Bank of Nigeria? What about judiciary? Is there any institution in Nigeria that is spared? So by the time the House finishes this one within 4 weeks, where else would they go to? Where else would they beam their searchlight? Because it is in appropriate deductions by who? By the institutions or by the banks and all of that. So it's quite unfortunate. And I keep asking, why is it difficult for us to start and finish something without this kind of scandal coming into it? This is not the first, Nigeria is not the first country. I received bursary, at least one of it was a one-off exercise. I received bursary as an undergraduate. And we didn't have all this kind of going back and forth. So, and that was about 35 or more years ago. So if we could get it right then, what went wrong? What went down the line? Why is it that instead of making progress, we are just making steps backwards? So, like I keep saying, everything boils down to the issue of leadership. And related to the students' loan is the fact that candidates currently sitting for the 2025 West African School Certificates Examination WASC were forced to take their English language exam late at night without electricity, relying on lanterns and mobile phone flashlights. Well, the incident was exposed by a user, Omolomo, on his or her ex handle, and shared videos and photos of students writing in near total darkness at a WAEC center. Well, he noted at the time was 9:42 p.m., expressing shock that such conditions still exist for national exams in Nigeria. The other time it was in Delta State, now it's in another place. So the question is, why are students compelled to write exams late into the night, up until 9:42 p.m.? Do we have explanations for that? The Ministry of Education, WAEC, and all of that. So maybe Moses can help offer some explanations.
No, I can't. I don't know. Well, about the students' loan, it's unfortunate. Everybody, it's like in Nigeria right now, everybody, every ministry, every individual wants to grab something. Everybody wants to take out of what is perceived as a national cake. Some students who paid their tuition fees before the loans were disbursed are asking for the money back. Now, the government is saying, look, schools, return the monies back. Schools are finding it difficult. Some institutions inflated the monies that inflated the tuition fees. So when these monies are then paid, the inflated number paid, they will take the excess on top of it and then use the rest to, you know, augment the students' school fees. It's just corruption. Corruption everywhere. And that's why in certain establishments, in the civil service in particular, when some people leave service either through retirement or, either through abscondment, because a lot of people abscond, it's not, these things are not reported. Some people would just, you know, leave, travel abroad, maybe take leave and then go abroad. And before you know it, salaries will continue to come in. And this thing's going to somebody's account until there is a verification. And that's why you will always have such verification, you know, corruption. Everybody wants to grab something. And largely, it rests on the table of leadership. Because the people feel those who are at the helm of affairs, those at the top, are milking the nation. So they also want to take their share of the cake. And these things will not stop until people see that elected officials that perpetuate corruption are brought to book. If they are made to face the law, made to answer questions, then it will trickle down. You can't just ask the people to behave appropriately when those at the helm of affairs are not behaving appropriately. You know, I saw a report today that an elected official attending an event, you know, got to the event in a Rolls Royce, and you're wondering, who are you trying to oppress? You're basically rubbing it in the faces of the people that, look, in as much as you voted him into office, I will live in affluence while you suffer. It's horrible. It's horrible.
Sorry, Moses, permit me to butt in now. The person that rode on a Rolls Royce, the question is, did he have the Rolls Royce before he got into
Even
office?
if he did. Even if he did.
Okay.
We know the level of poverty
in this country,
in the society, in the country at the moment. It's not something you do, you rub in the faces of the people when people are looking for food to eat.
You know why I say that? Because we essentially run a capitalist organization, you know, where people are free to, to hustle, make money in a very decent way. But my concern here is that individual that you just talked about, I don't know the person, I've not seen the video, probably didn't make the money outside office. He must have made it while in office. Because we see
Most probably,
because we see it happen most of the time here in Nigeria. People get into office, and after a while, they build big corporations, they build mansions. And when you ask them, they say, I had money before. You had money, so why didn't you build that? Why didn't you buy the car? You know, so it is at that point that they begin to fly it in our faces. And I agree with you. It shouldn't be. It shouldn't be. But the point is that our government also encourages them. How will a government buy a vehicle, an SUV, worth 160 million naira a piece for a representative when people in those constituencies cannot afford 5,000 naira to make a pot of soup? It's crazy.
It's
crazy, and we condone these things. Like we said yesterday, Nigerians are very, very intelligent people. Nigerians understand these things. But the question is, why are we laid back?
Why are we laid back? That's the big question. Some will say it's out of fear. You know, fear of what might happen if you speak up. And also, we to a great extent, Nigerians don't trust our neighbors. We don't trust that your neighbor will have your back.
Yes, if something happens to you.
There's no trust. So everybody just wants to protect themselves
and
just stay on their own. It's unfortunate. And, you know, that way we will never grow. Now, talking about students writing exams with phone touch and lanterns and the rest, it's horrible. And then you come and say these students failed the exam when the environment is not conducive enough for assimilation, not conducive enough for learning, not conducive enough to even, pen down what. In fact, you will forget a lot of things in an environment like this. These students, I think, at this point, they may have finished or were yet to even start. But I hear that in this particular video, the time was about 9:42 p.m. Now you've made the parents apprehensive because they will be wondering what is going on. The children themselves will be confused. There's a lot of distraction at this point. How then will they, write down what will be good enough to make them pass this examination. We are introducing CBT, computer-based tests and the rest, when we haven't balanced up, internet access. And I do believe that in places like this, the materials arrived late. Yesterday, a friend's daughter who was writing exam complained that at about some minutes to 6, they were still in the examination hall. Not because they didn't start on time. Well, they did start on time, and then there was an information that one of the questions leaked. So they had to start looking for questions all over again, and there was this hours of delay. So before they were able to write a second paper, it was already 5 p.m. So already the wait time would be exhausting. The students would have been exhausted, having waited more than 3 hours, 4 hours to write another paper. And all the conversation that would have taken place would be distracting for that student. I will not be surprised if the result come out and we hear massive failure. I would not be surprised.
You just raised another talking point here. The exam leaked. How did it leak? Yes, how did it leak? It is human error. Somebody released it, somebody leaked it. And the unfortunate thing is that in all of this, there will not be any consequence. And so tomorrow, we still move on. I understand that they are writing mathematics, or probably tomorrow.
Maybe have written.
Probably tomorrow, and it's coinciding with the sit at home in the southeast and all of that. Because I think like 5 years ago, when my son wrote, it was also May started, and it coincided with sit at home, and it was mathematics, and he's a science student, and all of that. So I bet we were able to navigate and get him to school to write the exam. A lot of his friends, mates, missed that exam, and it's likely to happen again because these people are saying, look, you must have to. So it's consequences for action. Expo 77, that was when it was introduced into Nigeria, and since then, it has never gone away. Until we get to a point where people are punished for this kind of errors, I mean, we are not going to make headway.
Indeed, absolutely. Oh, well, let's dive into another conversation. We're still within the educational sector. The federal government has announced a monthly stipend of 45,000 naira for students in technical colleges as part of efforts to revitalize technical and vocational education and training, TVET, in Nigeria. Executive Secretary of the National Board for Technical Education, Professor Idris Bugaji, made this disclosure during an interview marking President Bola Tinubu's second year in office. He stated that the initiative aims to make TVET more attractive than conventional university education and increase student enrollment. Well, government would also cover additional expenses beyond the monthly stipend. Now, I must say, this is a laudable venture. It's a laudable move if it is carried out to the letter, if there is sincerity in all of this, because we know that we have failed to develop skills. I mean, we've spoken about this here before. If you want to build a house, you need people to tile, you need people as masons and the rest. Getting labor in that area, relatively, some sort of skilled labor in that area will be difficult because young Nigerians are not interested. You would have to get people from, Cotonou and places outside Nigeria to come work, because these are the people that have taken time to learn and will give you a good job. But the young Nigerian, the 18-year-old, 19-year-old is just interested in making quick money. And then we see cases of ritual killings and all these things, further perpetuating crime. But if people are given if they are made to believe that, look, you can be paid something, at least something to put food on your table while you acquire a skill. You can learn to be a mechanic. I was at my mechanic place the other day, and I saw how he was running around trying to do everything. And I asked him, I said, don't you have boys anymore? He said, nobody wants to learn. And he wouldn't blame them. They just want to put food on the table. Their parents are like, look, go get money from wherever and make sure there is food on the table. You're pushing out an 18-year-old, a 19-year-old to go get money, go work and get money and bring food to the table. In fact, 14-year-olds, 15-year-olds are asked to go make money. And so we see a growth in internet fraud and ritual killings and the rest. But if this is done and, transparently done, then young Nigerians can know that, yes, they can learn to be mechanics, they can learn to, work in the construction industry, get this skill that will make them, entrepreneurs in the future, and they will not have to depend on, white-collar jobs, as the case may be. They would start earning something without waiting for government employment. Then it will be a good way to go. So yes, this is a laudable venture if it is carried to the letter.
I like the word you used, if. That's the operational word. And trying to develop TVET, technical vocational education and training, is a good thing. We cannot overemphasize it. But I think I have a different idea of how the government is trying to achieve that by throwing money at the students, because it hasn't worked. If you look at the northern states of this country, where students are given free uniforms, free school books, free feeding, free everything, how much has that impacted on the productivity of the sector in the north? Because and I like the word you also use, transparent, and you can be very sure that in this country it will never be transparent. Because how about the palliatives, ordinary palliatives that are given out? How about the e-money that was sent out during campaigns and all of that? Practically everything. How about the school feeding, the school feeding program and all of that? Everything is always mired in controversy because there is always lack of transparency. If the government wants to do this, I'm of the opinion that the government should actually have a test case of people who are graduates of TVET institutions, provide them jobs, and now fly them in the face of ordinary students who are yet to get in that direction, so that they will know that, look, by the time we finish this program, something is out there already waiting for us. For the 5,000 naira a month, students will simply walk into that, take the money at the end of every month, and you can be sure that this thing is not going to exceed 3 months. It will not last more than 3 months. Another story will enter into it. You and I go there here, we'll go talk again. If I have to reduce it to our level, because you said transparent, it can never be transparent in this country except we change overnight. So while it is laudable to develop a TVET, I think this is the government is, and this government has become adept at throwing money. You want to do this, you throw money. Palliatives, would they say there is no fuel, there's an increase in the price of fuel, you throw money. We lack this, you throw money. Those monies don't even get to the actual beneficiaries. The thing hovers around people in government and all of that. At the end of the day, the problem that you wanted to throw money at is still unresolved. So where does that leave us? Okay, in the course of the show, we are going to interrogate and explore, the 2 years of this administration. And our analysts will probably tell us how far we have traveled and the direction we are headed, whether we are in the right direction or not.
Oh, well. Well, we do hope that we'll make headway. Oh, well. Those are trending stories. And now let's get into the conversation proper. Before we do, let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at stories that made it to the cover pages. Newspaper headlines coming up shortly. Join us again. Well, thanks for joining us again. Now, let's get into the papers. We have Nigerian News Direct. Now, the cover page, the window headlines here. Governor Abiodun has brought monumental growth to Ogun. That's according to the Basco. Dangote Cement rewards distributors, customers with CNG trucks. Cash gifts, 11 billion naira. All right, those are the window headlines. And then to the banner headline. Second year anniversary. Our economic reforms are working. Nigeria on course to greater stability. Tinubu assures Nigerians their patience is not taken for granted. Over $8 billion committed to oil and gas sector investment in 2025. Says new fiscal policy will guide fair taxation, responsible borrowing. Now, this is coming from the stable of the presidency. And then other headlines here. Lagos disburses over 15 billion naira to 6,024 retirees. Tackles pension backlog. Tinubu's second anniversary. Promise made, promise kept. US halts students' visa globally, imposes restrictions on foreign nationals. Well, those are the headlines on the cover page of Nigerian News Direct.
And up next is the Guardian newspaper with the window headlines. ECOWAS at 50. Tinubu, go on. Others seek stronger ties amid shifting alliances. Security wars. That story is on page 6 of the Guardian newspaper. 4,169 teachers failed professional qualifying exam. Interesting. Alia Obi decry lack of strategy to curb insecurity. That story is on page 59. Now the big story. Tinubu insists economic reforms are working. Opposition kicks. That story is on page 6. And okay, there's a bold there. Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Okay, that's all from the Guardian newspaper. I think that the next one is an advert.
All right. Okay. So let's go to the Punch. Basically, the same with what you have on the cover page of the Guardian. I think they just copied each other and just put it out there. Or it seems like a sponsored
advert. It's a sponsored ad, yes.
Okay. Now let's look at. There are other things there written beside the picture of the president. Well, before I come to it, I want you to ruminate on that one before we get into the conversation proper. Now, this is the banner headline. May 29th speech, we are laying foundation for sustainable future, says Tinubu. President lists external reserve growth. FG's push against bandits among economic security gains. And then other headlines here. Tinubu's 2-year review stirs fresh political firestorm. Midterm review. Manufacturers gasp under energy credit burden as reforms bite. And then the big story there. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu at 2. Over 900,000 beneficiaries of presidential loan on grant scheme. Over 300,000 beneficiaries of student loan scheme. Over $10 billion FX debt cleared. Over 440 ongoing road projects, including over 2,700 kilometers of superhighways. 3.84% GDP growth in Q4 2024, highest in 3 years. 70,000 naira minimum wage payment. Over 13,500 terrorists eliminated. Over $50 billion in new FDI commitments. Net foreign exchange reserves up from $3.99 billion 2023 to $23.11 billion 2024. Over $8 billion in new oil and gas investments unlocked. 4 new landmark tax bills. 5 new regional development commissions. Over $800 million realized in processing investment in solid minerals. Now, this is put forward by the Information and National Orientation Agency right there, telling Nigerians the achievements of the president. We'll get into all of this and find out how these achievements translate to better life for Nigerians. But let's visit another headline.
Okay, now let's quickly run through the Daily Trust newspaper with the window headlines. The worst behind us, that's coming from the president. Military arrests 18 soldiers. 15 corps over supply of arms to terrorists. AFDB, Nigeria, 90 others elect additional successor today. Okay, I'll take that again for emphasis. African Development Bank, AFDB, Nigeria, 90 others elect additional successor today. Now the big story, 2 years after putting Tinubu on the scale, And most stories, highs, lows of ECOWAS at 50. The bottom strip headlines, expect ground rent hike, Wike tells Abuja property owners. 10,217 persons killed in Nigeria in 24 months. That's coming from the Amnesty International AI. Nigerian pilgrim returns missing 8.2 million naira to owner in Malka. And that's all from the Daily Trust newspaper.
And from the Nigerian Tribune, just a few headlines from the Nigerian Tribune. Emefiele appeals final forfeiture order on 753 housing unit estate. Second anniversary, Tinubu declares economic reforms working. Says only alternatives to reforms was fiscal collapse. Reaffirms commitment to security, national development. Highlights progress made amid rising cost of living. And quickly to the... Okay, I think you've taken the Daily Trust.
Yes, I've taken the Daily Trust. But we still have the Matrix.
Okay.
Can we take it? Okay.
So let's take... Go ahead.
Okay, the Matrix. Now, the banner headline, midterm report, mixed reactions to Tinubu's presidency. With the riders, economic hardship will cost him re-election, PDP, Onayekon, Susu and others. Reducing poverty, inflation must not be left only for government, Buhari. Tinubu must continue his reforms. Financial Times editorial board. ECOWAS at 50, preserve our founding fathers' legacy, Tinubu. Urges region's leaders to look beyond artificial borders, embrace one another as family. Treason case, confessional statement made under the race, Nnamdi Kanu backtracks. Okay, PDP crisis festers. Lamido vows to boycott meetings until Wike orders are expelled. Senate adopts harmonized report on 4 key tax reform bills. And Priscilla Juma, Jokes celebrate lavish white wedding in Tanzania. Emefiele petitions appeal court over forfeiture of 753 units Abuja estate. History made as Palmer's fine form helps Chelsea win UEFA Conference League. And that's all from the Matrix newspaper.
And those are the headlines we have for you. But at 10 o'clock, we'll go into these headlines and dissect and bring you, more stories, more angles to these headlines. In the meantime, let's take a look at the president's second-year anniversary, as some are calling for re-election of the president. Let's x-ray the results, the policies, and possible results from his years in office. Join us again.
Oshodi is a vibrant, bustling district in Lagos, Nigeria, known for its energetic mix of commerce, culture, and resilience. It is a place where opportunity and chaos thrive together, reflecting the city's dynamic spirit. Before Oshodi became a symbol of Lagos hustle, it was a quiet settlement occupied by the Awori people, one of the earliest Yoruba subgroups in the region. The name Oshodi is believed to have been derived from Balogun Oshodi Tapa, a war captain under the famous Yoruba warrior Oba Kosoko. With Lagos' rapid development, Oshodi became a key transportation hub connecting different parts of the city. By 1970 and 1980s, it had become a bustling marketplace and a major stop for people traveling through Lagos. Today, Oshodi is a lively and busy place full of people, market stalls, and activities from morning to night. It is known for being the energetic heart of Lagos and a challenging area due to the crowd and traffic. Despite the chaos, Oshodi shows the strength and determination of the people who live and work there. In recent years, Oshodi underwent one of the most ambitious urban transformations in Lagos history, the birth of Oshodi Transport Interchange. This multi-terminal megastructure was designed to tame the chaos, bringing the modern transport system to one of Africa's busiest cities. Beneath the modern facade, the original Oshodi also lives on. Traders still line the side streets, food vendors still serve steaming plates of jollof rice, and thousands still rely on this place as the start or end of their daily journey. To the outsider, Oshodi might look like the unfiltered chaos, but to those who know its streets, it is an ecosystem, a place where the rule of survival, negotiation, and community are learned on the go. From sunrise to moonlight, Oshodi is a reminder of Lagos' unyielding energy, a place where the city's past, present, and future collide all in one square.
Well, in 2 years, President Bola Tinubu's administration has implemented bold economic reforms like the fuel subsidy removal and forex unification, boosting revenue, but triggering inflation, a weaker naira, and rising living costs. Now, these changes have sparked a public backlash, despite being seen as necessary. Now, major infrastructure efforts, including the Lagos-Calabar Coastal Highway, the power sector reforms, aim to improve long-term development. However, insecurity remains a major issue, with ongoing violence in parts of the country. Well, public opinion is sharply divided. Supporters praise the reforms, while critics argue that Tinubu is out of touch and focused more on early re-election efforts than governance. Now, his term so far reflects bold ambition, tough trade-offs, and a deeply burdened populace. Oh well. Let's x-ray the president's 2 years in office. We have joining us, we have Daily Fanimo, who is a seasoned reporter and a public affairs commentator. Good to have you join the conversation.
Good morning.
We also have Dr. Ganiu Oluwashola, Managing Partner, KJB Professional Services. Well, good to have you join us as well.
Thank you for having me.
And from our Benin station, we will be having Dr. Bright Onyevo Kuko, who is a medical doctor, a human rights activist, public affairs commentator. And also, we will be going to Abuja in the course of the program, where we will have Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, former presidential candidate of the Grassroots Development Party of Nigeria in the 2019 presidential election. And he's also a journalist and social commentator. Oh, well, we have all gentlemen. It's an all-male affair today.
Yes.
Interested. Interested.
It's not gender sensitive.
No, it's not. The things men do, because of the weather, men will weather the storm to ensure that the things men do. Oh, well, welcome to the show. Now, let's look at the president's policies. The president's speech today, the president did say that, look, I mean, he basically reiterated statements that he has made time and time again of how, he had to take tough measures, how the decisions he took were vital for the survival of Nigeria. One of them, has always been the removal of subsidy. And some will argue that this might be one of the most controversial policy, because in as much as the president maintains that yes, it's been taken out and monies have been saved in the process, we still hear that subsidy is still being paid. How do you think all of this is meant to confuse Nigerians? Or what exactly would you say is playing out here? I would like to start with Mr. Fanibo.
Well, I think I said it some few weeks ago that the economy is a function of variables of macro and micro indices. But unfortunately, yes, if he has reeled out, because I just finished reading the presidential statement about what he has done to rebase the economy, about foreign exchange, about subsidy removal, about health sector, agri sector, and other sectors that, in fact, of critical concern to me was the way he was tumbling up for the power sector, electricity. If you said you have done so well in transmission, in generation, and we still have, as compensation, darkness all over the place, and the comatose rail sector that has to rely on diesel that sells for 1,100 and in some cases maybe 1,150 per liter. I wonder how a company will survive on this. That a company that has to run on 3 sets of generator every day, you know, and most of these things are passed to the consumers, you and I, whatever they incur in some of these activities. So then in the area of food security, I was just wondering how the president view what is going on. Maybe the market indices has not really shown him, and those who are supposed to be close to him didn't tell him that, look, whatever you may think in the cozy embrace of Aso Rock is not the same thing as what we feel out there. If a bag of rice is more than the minimum wage, I wonder how somebody who earns minimum wage will survive. In fact, it's a miracle, and I don't really understand. Maybe it's because of our communal life that people survive on meager income in Nigeria. Because if it's a country that has more on the side of formal sector than the informal sector, maybe would have been seen corpses on the streets. Because a family of 5 requires minimum of, at the baseline, minimum of 120,000 naira every month. And yet this man's take-home pay and the wife is not even up to 100,000. How do they survive? How do they make up for all of this? So for me, there are areas that I faulted when I read that speech. That, look, a lot has to be done. Not just giving us statistics. Statistics cannot feed Nigerians. Insecurity, he was busy praising the security apparatus in the country. And I wonder what he was talking about. Maybe while he was in France, maybe they told him that nobody was killed in Benue, or maybe nobody was killed in Plateau. But now he's back in the country. He has heard, he has seen, and I know that there's security reports coming to him every day from different quarters. How people saunter into communities, slaughter people like ram, and then go unchecked.
Well, the president did say that they are fighting insecurity and they are making progress. And if you talk about the progress being made, as this is as published by the NOA did say that about 13,500 terrorists have been eliminated so far. Now, talking about insecurity, we still see a lot of it taking place. In fact, the bombing that took place in Abuja recently, the minister has come out to negate what Nema said. Nema said it was a suicide bomber. The minister said no, it was an individual who ignorantly
from the quarry.
stole, yes, an explosive from the quarry and was walking into the barracks. And then you start to wonder, where did he get his information from? How do you react to the fight against insecurity and the possible progress?
Okay, that's a brilliant question. And to be honest, I think it's not as more potent during the time of Buhari regime, right? But the whole thing is still over there. You could see what is happening in Benue. Look at what is happening in Borno State. I was surprised when the Borno State governor turned this insecurity to become a political statement. Before he got there, he said that they almost capture the whole of Borno, that before they know, if they are not careful, Borno will be under the menace of these guys. But when it gets to the Aso Villa, he changed his topic. He said that, oh, we are in charge of it, right? That it's under control. Look at what is happening in Plateau. You see, when you look at look at it from when he resumed office in May 29, 2023, right? Immediately he says subsidy was gone, right? As at that time, we have our dollar to naira was around 460, right? And immediately subsidy was gone, the whole thing just began to skyrocket, right? So we had that, okay, over $10 billion was saved, but also do not forget that there was an exposure during the time, I think the coordinating minister of finance, one of the draft that was sent in to the president for signing and said that they are paying XYZ amount of subsidy, which is much more when the fuel price was still around 200. So those are the things where I'm saying subsidy was gone. It has a ripple effect on our cost of living. The people could not naturally afford what they should afford with their salary because fuel has a ripple effect on the transport fare skyrocketed, right? Food basket, food begin to increase astronomically, right? And so when you look at the subsidy removal, and in my line of work, there's what we call CBA, we call it cost benefit analysis. If the cost overweigh the benefit, then you don't embark on the project. But if the benefit overweigh the cost, then it shows that it's a profitable project. So when you look at the effect we have felt on the subsidy removal, so should we mean that it would have been thought through before it been implemented? Yeah, we agree that there is a unification that was brought to the space of our foreign exchange because we have almost 6 foreign exchange windows. We have the official windows, we have the I&E windows, which is our investors and exporters windows. If you are into investors, into exporting, you use that window to get forex. We have the window, we call it secondary market. Secondary market intervention for retail window for those people that want to get forex. We also have small and medium scale enterprise window for small businesses. Then we also have invisible windows, right? Invisible windows, maybe you are into services and all those. Then we now have parallel windows, which has to do with a black market. So almost 6 windows. So people are now taking advantage of those windows. So the unification of that window to bring it to the market reality, that could make a lot of sense. And I said within that, what the unification they did on that window, it helps them to save over $7 billion. And that $7 billion, they use it to offset the backlog of foreign exchange loan, right? So which means that indirectly, there was a subsidy placed on it of over 391 over 1 naira, right, that you're buying for $1. So once that window was unified, they were able to save, and all those foreign exchange loan, it was offset. But when you look at it vis-a-vis, you come up with a strategy, right? We have good strategy, but the question is that the implementation are poor. You come up and say that, oh, for student loan, you are awarding over 75 billion, right? For student loan. The question is that how many students were able to access it,
the loan.
right?
Okay.
So you said for each homes, you'll be giving 25,000 for 15 million homes, right? And so multiply 25,000 with 15 million, that is around 375 billion. 375 billion. So do we now have specific number of people that say that they are beneficial to it? So this are achievement, but you know you need to mirror it with results. With results. Okay. So we have it on ground. Okay. So and we also said that they said that we are giving 75 billion to small enterprises for them to be able to help it, 50 billion, and we are giving 75 billion to nano business to be able to help them through. The question is that do we have this thing? We have it on record as achievement, but we need to marry it with the results.
Reality. Okay.
With reality.
Now, Doctor, you have spoken very well, and you raised more talking points than the question that you were even asked, and it's very interesting. I like the fact that in your opening comment, you made mention of Buhari, you know, who handed over to this person. I think sometime yesterday, day before yesterday, Buhari was asked about the, you know, this administration. He said, look, the government is a continuum. He's doing his best. He's doing well. But that Nigerians should also be patient with this administration, you know, and see how they're able to drive the policies and all of that. He practically said that the policies are in the right direction. Now, for 8 years, Buhari asked us to be patient with his administration. We were patient. Now, this current APC, the former president is still asking us to be patient. Doctor, does it bother you that in the midst of all this administration, 2 years today, is concentrating more in campaigning for 2027 than in governance? Does it bother you? Should it bother Nigerians?
Yes, it should bother Nigeria and it should bother everyone. And there are two schools of thoughts to it, right? And this is one of the first of all, or one of the first of the president that will start his campaign in 2 years to election, right? So, well, like we all know, we are aware that the sitting president, it's a political wizard, right? It could always preempt. So he knows what they did to overthrow Jonathan then by coalition or margin of APC and CPC, right? And they are merging two parties together to form APC, right? So he knows and he saw the writing on the walls and see how coalitions are going. So you can now see that they are now putting a whole lot of things into the bucket to ensure that they will not fall a victim of what they created for another person. But the question also we should ask ourselves is that our leaders, are they there for the masses or they are there for themselves, right? So are we putting the cat before the horse or putting the horse before the cat? Are we so much concerned about the economic situation of Nigeria, the welfare of the citizens of Nigeria, and how Nigeria are faring, right? And the implementation of the policy, seeing it through. So if we are much more concerned about it, because the question is that someone once says that we have now become so used to the number of kidnapping and death toll in the country. So if they say 1,000 people die, we just say, oh, so sorry. And we just risk it off as if nothing happened, right? And which is not so in the developed country. We must value lives. That's what we call human capital, right? It's because we have human, that's why we have Nigeria. If there are no human, if there are no people, we will not have Nigeria. So we must be much more concerned about this and be able to show Nigerians that we are empathetic and not show to them that we are not so concerned about what is happening now. We are concerned about 2027, which is 2 years to
all right, then let's bring you back into this conversation. Talking about Nigerians being patient and making sacrifices, is it possible, are there any policy initiatives, like one or two of this administration, which you think, even in the immediate, if they are not making impact on the living standard of Nigerians, probably in the next 1 or 2 years, Nigerians will begin to reap the benefits of those policies? Is there any like one or two?
Yeah. For instance, the tax reform. Tax reform looks very promising in the sense that in the advanced world, the richer you are, the more you pay tax. But conversely, in Nigeria, the richer you are, the more you have the opportunity of evading tax. Big men don't pay tax in Nigeria. And unfortunately, the informal sector is bigger than the formal sector. So with the new tax reform, we are likely to have a better way of generating income for the country. That's on the side of the tax reform. But to what use this income, this revenue is put is another matter
I was coming to
that we are going to discuss. Okay. Now, the local government financial autonomy, I think if the governors who are still holding on to this local government, if they would for once be reasonable and be patriotic and loyal to the development, to this nation in terms of development and growth, then they should allow financial autonomy for local governments. I've seen it work in the past, even under military government, and I've seen it work under civilian administration. But this joint tax, this joint federal allocation to state that ties the local government to the apron string of the governors, I think we have to dismember this and untie it so that grassroots development can take a better shape. Now, state police, we need to make sure that we come back to this state police. Yes, there are fears that governors will abuse the privilege of having a state police and all that and all that. There are in other crimes, there are state crimes and there are federal crimes. And we need to transit to that level where we have state police. You imagine if a group like Amotekun is transformed to state police and better equipped, the ESN is better reorganized and transformed to state police, all these shenanigans will not happen. And because the local community, they know themselves. If they have people around them who can navigate through the forest, who can track these marauders, there will be a pushback. But unfortunately, somebody is from Taraba and you are saying he should man somebody somewhere in the hinterland of Ondo State. How is he going to get there? Who does he know? He might even be asking questions from the person that is about to kill him. So these reforms, if the National Assembly and the governors will cooperate with the federal government, if they are in place, I think we will still have some mileage.
All right, then. Let me stay with you now, Dr. Oluwashola, on the issue of taxing, because I know that's your forte. Yes. Now, considering that Nigeria's informal sector accounts for over 57% of GDP, now, how will the proposed tax reform effectively integrate informal businesses without stifling their growth?
Okay, that's a brilliant question. I will let us to take a leap to, I won't go further. We can take a litmus test from Kenya. Kenya population is around 55 million. South African population is less than 60 million, right? And Kenya, when you are earning as an individual, conversion to Nigerian currency, you are earning around 288 naira per month, right? You'll be exempted from tax. 288,000 per month, you'll be exempted from tax, right? 288,000 per month. In South Africa, if you're earning over 700,000 per month, you won't pay any tax, right? Okay. And in that year, Kenya make around over 30 trillion in their taxes, while South Africa make around over 40, right? So the question is that, what is the gimmick there, right? So when you look at it, is that the reason why is that there's what we call 80-20 Pareto analysis, right? When you take the 20 people that are insignificant and you focus so much on them to carry the burden of 80 people, then you overburden them, right? Take for instance now, you have people earning 1 million per year. 100 of them, right? 1,000 of them, you are getting 100 naira from them, each of them. You are taxing them. So 100 times 1 million, right? That is like 100 million, right? And so you now have some people like maybe 50 of them that earn 100 million in a year, right? 100 million in a year or 1 billion in a year, right? That person earning 1 billion a year, you are getting around almost 100 million from each of them. 100 million times 50, that's around 50 billion. Compare with 1 million people. So what they're trying to do in a nutshell is that, oh, let us digitalize it, right? And ensure that people that are supposed to be paying tax but are evading tax because of their caliber, because of their person, right? And because of their big man nature, we will pull them into the tax net, right? To ensure that they pay that tax. And those people that are below the radar, let us excuse them so that they can grow. So once they grow and they could come match into that space, we can collect more taxes from them. Take for instance now, they were saying, the new reform bill is saying that if you are earning less than 50 million in a year as a business organization, small and medium enterprises, we will exempt you from tax. We want you to grow. Because we discovered that these small and medium enterprises, they employ more people, right? They give offer of employment to people, right? So if we allow you to grow, as you grow, you give more employment to people, the GDP of Nigeria increases, right? And those people you are giving employment to, they are also paying personal income tax, right? So, and they now put it that if people that you are giving employment to, they are earning less than 1 million in a year, we exempt them from tax, right? And so you small business enterprises, if you also maintain some level of staff over the year, you also have some tax incentives. Okay. This is to encourage them, and in the long run, it's going to have a multiplier effect. Take for instance now with the new reform, before the reform even started, the revenue of the government grew by with around 9.1 trillion, right? And so the new reform is budgeting a far trillion, right? For them to be able to grow. And these are parameters. You know, we work with statistics. We work with statistics. So if all things being equal, right? And that is why you say that the reform bill is trying to put system in place. Things can be tracked if there is system in place. But if there are no system in place, it will be difficult for you to track them. That's why they're saying that we are pulling all the revenue arms of the government into one bucket. We will not, custom will no longer collect the fee, fund. It will be collected by one arm of government. And that's why they're changing it from Federal Inland Revenue to Nigeria Revenue Services. Right? So it shows that we are putting them into one bucket so we can focus and know that this is where the revenue is coming from and we are blocking all leakages.
All right then. Oh, well, let's introduce our virtual guest from Abuja. We have Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, who is a former presidential candidate of the Grassroots Development Party of Nigeria, GDPM, in the 2019 presidential election. He's also a journalist and, of course, a public affairs commentator. So in the capacity of a public affairs commentator, that's why we have you here. Dr. Ibrahim, good morning to you. Welcome to the program.
Thank you very much. Good morning, Mr. Presenter.
All right. So
good to connect to these wonderful people that I've seen on board.
All right, thank you very much.
For the purpose of the purpose of correction, I was the vice presidential candidate. Let my Oga not hear me claiming to be the presidential candidate.
All right, then. Thank you very much for that correction. Thank you. Yeah. Now let's a broad assessment of this administration's 2 years in office. Let's have your take. Broad assessment.
Well, Mr. Moderator, I thank you once again for the invite to this discussion. I think the first 2 years of the Tinubu administration has a lot of things to discuss on, both the good, the bad, and the ugly. I can tell you that Tinubu had a lot of goodwill coming from Lagos with antecedents of a Democrat of conscience, a man of character and distinction, and one human being that has been able to put a major landmark in the sands of time when it comes to democratic tenets in Nigeria. Whether we like it or not, he did perform in Lagos. But coming to the center, it seems as if things have not been really the dictates of democracy, where we see, the tenets working very well in terms of the economic prosperity of Nigeria, the social infrastructure, security, education, and in fact, putting food on the tables of the people. You will agree with me, Mr. Presenter, that Nigeria as it is today, I think we are in a very, very difficult situation where people have been angry and hungry, the ordinary Nigerians, in the midst of plenty, paradoxically, and in tune and in sync with the philosophies of life. This is a country that God has magnanimously gifted. Wonderful people, beautiful flora and fauna, with so many attributes that could only be rivaled with nature itself. But here we are today. This country seems to have been plagued by challenges of corruption, crass impunity, unmitigated lawlessness.
Now, it's interesting that you said, it's interesting. You started by saying the president has a lot of goodwill, but then these challenges seem to be strangulating all the goodwill and all the, things that he's trying to achieve. Is it that there are those foxes, and how is it that the president has allowed them to remain, around him? Those foxes that have determined to, whittle down the achievements of this administration. We've always talked about corruption and corruption fighting back. Do you believe that the president is this corruption fighting back in all of this?
Yes, corruption is fighting back 2 years after.
But why does it seem, I'm sorry to butt in, but why does it seem like...
You asked me a question.
Okay, go ahead.
2 years after, and I hold this very dear to my heart, based on my personal convictions. I think Nigeria has been captured by the Lagos boys. It is a cabal that came home from Lagos and has captured Nigeria. And therefore, lack of commitment to the core values of democracy, while we see people coming in, convergence of, people of character from all the nooks and crannies of this country, and improving on the welfare and well-being, especially within the administrative network of the government, to see that they are giving inputs, because there's no part of this country that God has not blessed abundantly with people of character and distinction, people that have been tested and trusted. And therefore, to me, it's all about sons of lamentation and unfulfilled dreams. Misappropriation of glories and perverted ancestry. And to me, for us and this government to find its rhythm in the indices of the economy, have we been able to perform very well? I heard some people are saying that withdrawal of fuel subsidy is an achievement. I don't think it is. Placing 70,000 to ordinary Nigerians as of today, when you are buying fuel at 1,000 naira per liter.
All right, Dr. Modibo, let me stay with you. Let me stay with you as this conversation progresses. You said that it's like we are living in a lost glory. The president did well when he was in Lagos, but now we don't seem to find all of that. Dr. Modibo, is it proper? Let's talk about removal of fuel subsidy. And the government, the president said, governors that used to receive 5 billion per month from FAC are now receiving 3 times, which is about 15 billion. And the governors themselves have admitted, look, we have access to more money from the federation account. Dr. Modibo, should we always blame the president? Why shouldn't we look at the subnationals, the governors? What are they doing with the monies that they receive? These subnationals, in actual fact, are the units that make up the national. If they are doing very well at the subunit level, if the states are making progress in terms of delivery of infrastructure, in terms of provision of agricultural materials, in terms of farmers going to farm, do you think that the economy will be in this situation? So, shouldn't we cut the president some slacks and also beam our searchlight on the subunits?
Whoever had advised Mr. President to come and move the... If you look at the problems of Nigeria starting from day one, that day when he stated at the Eagle Square that subsidy is gone, that was a major albatross to our development, to our problems. Because if you look at, Tinubu has done very well when he was the governor of Lagos. And today, he has surrounded himself with people that are called textbook economists. They are newspaper tigers. To me, they are not being sincere when you look at the issues of the economy on ground.
Sorry, Dr. Modibo. I'm sorry, sir. Let me button. We are out of time.
Can you hold on? Let me land. Can you give me a minute to land?
Okay, land, sir.
You see, you are talking about governors. Who said, and under what economic principle could you remove subsidy from the people and then just be giving governors? Some of these governors, they don't even have up to 1,000 cars in their state capital, but they're building overhead bridges. For what? When there's not even water. They don't know what to do with this money. And let me tell you, there are wide-scale allegations that some of these governors, when they collect these monies that have been given to them, go to Bureau de Change and see how they're changing into dollars. Okay. Most of them, they don't even give you naira now.
Okay, sir. Okay. So
what significance?
All right. We have
ordinary Nigerian?
All right. We have established one point that the governors now have more money. It depends on what they do with the money. Now, let me ask you, sir. Let's change the situation. Let's simulate it. If you and your principal won the 2023 general elections, what is this government doing currently that you'll have done otherwise? What will you have done otherwise, different from what they are doing?
Let me tell you, the trajectory of this government has not been able to get the human face because there are no good advisors that have been able to sit down to articulate the problems of Nigeria and provide solutions. Fundamentally, if we were to have formed government, I can tell you for free, my brother, that would have assembled the best brains this country can give us, putting square pegs in square holes, where we tap from every segment of this country, south, west, east, and north, the central and everywhere, not concentrating the whole gamut of your economic team within a state capital, within one cocoon that is called cabal.
Dr. Modibo, what if you had an sorry, sir, if you had an economic team?
My problem is you don't even allow me to finish what I'm...
Sir, if you had an economic team, what would the economic team have done differently, sir?
Yeah, the economic team would have proposed solutions to your issues.
Solutions like?
Let me tell you, from day one, the advice that subsidy is gone on that day is wrong. The president did not sit down on his table for even 10 seconds to examine the Nigerian economic problems with a view to provide solutions. He said subsidy is gone. That is a misnomer. That one is not, it's suicidal when it comes to politics. You must sit down, articulate your views. And even if you're going to remove subsidy, do it with human face. Do it gradual disengagement so that it does not accrue these pains, suffering, and disaster. As of today, Nigerians are suffering and they are, hungry and angry. People do not even 1 square meal in a day. And you are subjecting people to, is this democracy? Why are we talking about? What are we talking about? Nigerians should be better off. We need food on the table. We need security. Look at the security problem of this country as of today. It is overwhelming. For me, if I were to be President Tinubu, I would have called for resignation of National Security Advisor, the 2 Ministers of Defense, the service chief, all of them will go. Otherwise, I'll sack them today. This one that you see on this 28th of Democracy Day. Now the president should sit down. Most of the ministers are just ministers that I don't even know a lot of their names. Very few that I know, because they are just like deadwoods. They are not doing anything. Virtually nothing to improve the welfare of people. And therefore, to me, there's a need for us to have a total overhaul. President Tinubu should sack almost all of them and then get others that could propel the wheel of progress of this country to greater.
All right, then. Thank you very much, Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. Let's bring it back to the studio now. Dr. Ganiu Oluwashola. Now, the president has been, well, some have said the cabals are fighting. Some have said he surrounded himself with Lagos boys. Now, aren't these Lagos boys the same people that helped him to achieve what was said that he achieved in Lagos? So what happens along the line? Help me understand.
So what we don't know is that there are different strategies for different people and for different environments.
Okay.
Right? So if you use the strategy that was used in Kenya, in Nigeria, it might not work because of the environment, right? Because of the people, right? Look at what is happening in Kenya, that the president will be talking and they will throw him. So you won't even have access to the president in Nigeria. So we have different environment, and the cosmopolitan of Lagos is different from the bigger space in Nigeria. So
it's overwhelming.
Not only overwhelming, right? It's also ability. Okay, you could also say that in real time, when the coordinating minister of finance come aboard, Wale Edu, right? He said that we won't borrow. We won't borrow because we know the state we have, right? We know where we are, because when they came into office, loan financing is around 98% of our revenue. But now it has nosedived to 68%, right? So they were saying that we can't borrow because our situation does not qualify borrowing, right? So the same person is approving loan, right? So it depends on who your principal is, right? It depends on the reality. So that is why we say that at times you might need to change your strategy. We might use a strategy to win Lagos, but when we get to the federal, we have a lot of replication of Lagos in the federal. We have rivers under the federal, we have Lagos, we have several places. So what should we do differently, right? So that we can have a result. Just like what Zig Ziglar says, that it will be a sign of insanity to do the same thing the same way and expect different results. Okay. And we can also blame him. When you remember, when Buhari was there, he was also surrounded by the Northerners. So it's not peculiar to him. As well. Right. He was also surrounded by the Northerners. Most of the people in his administrations are Northerners, right? So the same thing that is happening in this. So if Peter Obi comes in now, I can also tell you for free, most of the people that will surround him will be the Easterners, right? So
okay.
So because these are the people, so he might just decide, say, so these are the people he has worked with, right? He knows that. So in leadership, you just need to have an open mind and pick the right people from the right side of the country for you to be able to.
So basically, that is something we are plagued with. We are plagued by in Nigeria. If we get a president from a part of the country, he would always work with people from that part of the country. Should we accept that?
We should accept. Okay, look,
we should accept it.
It's not a normal thing. You know, when abnormal becomes normal, we normalize it. It's just like when the PACN bring lights now, everybody shout, wow.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Okay. Has it always been like this? Was Obasanjo like that? Was Yar'Adua like that? Was Jonathan like that?
Obasanjo was almost like that. Check Obasanjo's thing. It was surrounded by mostly Westerner and Easterner. We only have, when they get to the people, the top people handling the head of the head of military, COAS, and when you look at them, they are not Northerners, right? It's just not natural for those that trust. But you look at it that it's also snowball into our political landscape. I was on a forum yesterday that said that a lot of political prostitute and cross-carpeting happening in Nigeria. We want to replicate the democracy in US in Nigeria. And have you ever seen somebody leaving the Republicans to Democrats? It's never happened. They are always following suit to the end. But because we throw caution into the wind and we do not allow our law to take its place. Now in Rivers, we discovered that in Rivers is saying that for those 27 people that has left the National Assembly, they have lost their position, and those guys said that we are still in that party. Is that not what happened? Because there was a Supreme Court judgment. Look at what happened in Delta. All of them make a move, and nobody is talking. So those are the peculiarity things that is happening, and which we should, once we're able to take a political stand concerning it, it's going to affect us positively.
All right, then it will affect us. Now let's get reactions from Mr. Fanimo now. With about 45.9 billion naira allocated to primary, would you say has been observed in rural healthcare delivery?
You see, the National Primary Health body, almost 70% will be for make any impact at all. How do you train people when they don't have tools to work with? When that my cousin took over in Lagos State here, do you know that almost everybody in the primary health care sector was up in arm against him? So there was a day I met a woman, and the moment they mentioned that my cousin, in fact, she rained curses on him. That you see, he didn't allow them to go to frivolous courses, that they will stay in their home and then they get alert.
Okay. All right then.
Whereas no drugs, no consumables, no dressing,
all right,
no doctor. In some of these primary health care centers, do you know that they use phone searchlights?
Oh well.
To perform operations.
That's a major problem that we are dealing with. All right, let's get back to Dr. Modibo as we take concluding thoughts now. Doctor, one question, and then you could wrap up with your concluding thoughts as well in a few minutes. If you are to throw away one policy that this administration has put out, which policy would you pick, squeeze and throw in the bin, or how many of them, and replace? Quality.
Let's be hopeful it's going to come up good and average Nigeria, because most importantly that let Nigeria, he has once said that let the poor breathe.
All right.
Let Nigeria enjoy, and let them enjoy the benefit of it.
All right, so let the hope of Nigerians be renewed in the president as he gets into.
Indeed, it should be renewed.
All right, then. Let's get your concluding thoughts.
Well, in the second half of this match, I think the president should lace his boots, get the right set of players, and make sure that he fixes challenges of security challenges. Once security is in place, we can begin to talk about development.
Okay, so let me just lay this, that I would also want to plead with the presidency, because once they begin to talk about election now, it's going to distract him. So we'll focus on the election and ignore what should be done. So I think he should just ensure that it doesn't distract him, because this will be one of his scorecards that will make him to be elected back in 2027.
All right, then. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Let's get into another conversation now. Legal matters. All right. Lawyers accuse police of ignoring Natasha and then rushing to act on Akpabio's petition. Let's talk about this when we come back. Join us again.
All right, thanks for staying with us. And if you are just joining us, this is VOP This Morning on Voice of the People Television. Now, lawyers for Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan have accused the Nigerian police of bias, alleging the force ignored 12 petitions she filed between March and May 2025, while quickly acting on a counter-petition by Senate President Godswill Akpabio. In a statement signed by her counsel, Uju Nwodo, the legal team revealed that Senator Natasha's petitions details serious allegations, including cyber stalking, defamation, threats to life, and an assassination attempt, none of which have been investigated. They criticized the police for filing criminal charges against the senator based on counter allegations made by those she accused, including Akpabio and former Kogi Governor Yaya Bello. We still have in the studio here with us Mr. Adele Fanimo and Dr. Ganiyu Oluwashola. We also have Dr. Ibrahim Modibo, who joined us from our Abuja outstation. Gentlemen, thanks for staying with us. Now, Dele, let me start with you. Natasha filed 12 petitions, according to her counsel, between March and May, and none of those petitions, including threats to her life, cyber stalking, and also an attempt, assassination attempt, not just on herself, but on one of her aides. In all of these 12, the police didn't investigate any of them, including an assassination attempt on her by Godswill Akpabio. Okay, not clearly an assassination attempt, but that, look, her life is under threat. And that those two people, Yaya Bello, former governor of Kogi State, and Godswill Akpabio, are after her life. The police clearly ignored all of this, according to her counsel, Ujunwadu, but quickly addressed the petition filed by the people that she accused. One of them, Godswill Akpabio, and the federal government has filed criminal charges against her. What is that supposed to be?
When you trace the genesis of this crisis between the Senate President and Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan, you discover that it was a kind of drama that you cannot even lay hand on substance, because not many people will be witnesses to issues of harassment and all that, which was the basis of this crisis on the floor of the House, of the Senate. Now, Natasha said one thing. She said she had clear evidence to show that Akpabio actually harassed her at some point. Now, we have not seen anything in that direction from Natasha. Now, the thing went to a point that she was suspended from the floor of the House for 6 months, and the Kogi State government jumped into the fray by stopping her from coming to a senatorial district. They said she must not go with a convoy, but she was smarter than them. She went in a helicopter and she did what she wanted to do and all that. Now, petitions that were filed against the Senate President and the former governor of Kogi State. I am not holding brief for the police here. The point is, at some point, there should have been a kind of communication from the police, because it is in the public domain that this woman filed 12 petitions. If those petitions clearly had no substance, it is the duty of the police to tell the world that there was no substance in any of those petitions. Because allegations that Natasha raised are grievous allegations. Somebody who says there is threat to her life, are we going to wait until she is eventually killed? We have had cases of this nature in Nigeria that somebody cried out that somebody was planning to kill, but because there was no proactive measure, that person was eventually killed. And for God's sake, if somebody dies today, even if you convict or condemn the assailant and maybe hang him, it will not bring back the life of the person that had cried and there was no action to protect her.
Okay.
So I expected that the police should have taken some measures. Okay. One, she's a senator, and because she's a senator, she deserved the right to be protected. Okay. They should have provided additional security.
But let's not forget that her security architecture was dismantled, withdrawn.
That's what I'm saying. It was wrong to have done that, because at that time she was vulnerable. She was handling something that is beyond her capacity
Okay,
to provide
I'd like for
private
us.
security.
I'd like for us to remain within the precincts of this investigation, by the police and the criminal charges. Dr. Dele said something about substance, looking at the substance of the matter. Now, how do we explain that substance? Dr. Moses wants to kill me. I report to you, and Moses.
Sure?
No, I'm trying to say Moses wants to kill me. I report to you, who is the commissioner of police, and Moses turns around to say, "Look, Doctor Chukuma said I want to kill him." And instead of investigating Moses wanting to kill me, you now investigate me, Moses saying I want to kill him. Between the both of them, which one should have a heavier substance?
So, okay. In my line of work, there's what we call substance over form.
Okay.
Right? So, which means that you must be able to check the substance of the transactions, right? And so, when you look at, and it will not be good for us to be having selective justice. So Nigeria, part of the fundamental thing in our constitution is that we talk about fairness, equity, and justice. So that every Nigerian, you must be fair in your delivery of justice. And a woman come, and you could see now that is why we cover how we are projecting ourselves at the global space matter. We see as if they're stalking her because she's a female, right? And we must be able to show a lot of fairness on this. If someone has filed 21 petition, 12 petition against you, right, straight to life, to which she filed against the Senate President and former Governor of Kogi, it talk about defamation. We must be able to.
That's what it feels like.
It says in my line of work, they said independence should not be only be seen; it must be shown. Okay. Right. So when you see someone that has filed 12 petition and it was put in abeyance, nothing is done to it, and a recent petition was filed, right, and a swift action was put on it, then it speaks so volume. Okay. It speaks a lot of volume in the sense that, aside from being a senator to a senator, it also speaks volume from being a senator to a senator. It also speaks volume because it's an opposite sex. It shows that the female gender is we should be able to be careful.
Somehow being trampled upon. That's the perception.
And so we should be careful about it, so that it should not show in the global space that we are trying to use, because we are male gender, so we are using our power to be able to silence her and suppress her. We must be seen to be fair. This is just what we're doing.
All right, but the case is still in court, and we're still trying to see how this one pans out. But let's bring Dr. Modibo into the conversation now. Doctor, thanks for rejoining. The issue of Natasha is on the table. Senator Natasha Akpoti-Uduaghan and Senate President Godswill Akpabio, Yahya Bello as well. All of it right here on the table. Now, without trying to preempt the courts now, does this seem like a case that is dead on arrival? Looking at what is before us, that she filed petitions against threats to life, and nothing was done to those petitions. But when she was, but then when those that the petitions were filed against spoke about her falsely accusing them, and then we see authorities spring into action. Does this seem like it's dead on arrival? Dr. Modibo, can you hear me? All right, I do understand that we're having network glitches there. Unfortunately, unable to get the response from Dr. Ibrahim Modibo. Well, let's bring you back to